Iceland, an island on the edge of the Arctic Circle between Norway and Greenland. During the Ice Age, it was completely glaciated. Countless glaciers still cover more than 10% of its surface even today. This is where the Vatnajökull calves, a glacier almost the size of Corsica. Huge icebergs drift peacefully into the sea. The first permanent settler in Iceland is said to have been a Norwegian chieftain named Ingólfur Arnarson. He built a farm in a place he called Reykjavik. It eventually became the island's capital, and today is home to 2/3 of Iceland's 300,000 inhabitants. Arnarson was soon followed by other settlers. Iceland was seen as a land of freedom and boundless opportunity, while in Norway space for settlement was limited, and there was much internal strife. Taking its name from the estimated arrival date of the first settlers, the 871 ± 2 years museum stands on the site of the Arnarson clan's settlement. Little has remained of the original dwellings, which isn't surprising in view of the many threats to life on Iceland in those days. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, drift ice, glaciers, bitterly cold winters, months of darkness, as well as famine and poverty. The landscape of Iceland is of volcanic origin. It's shaped not only by numerous active volcanoes, but also by rivers, lakes, and the biggest waterfalls in Europe. The centre of the island is virtually deserted. Settlement is confined to the coastal regions, the only areas where agriculture and livestock farming are possible, albeit on a limited scale. These pipes transport hot steam. Thanks to its more than 700 hot springs, Iceland is largely independent of oil and gas for its energy supply. 93% of all households are heated with hot water. The availability of natural energy is emphatically underlined by the sight of geysers like Strokkur. The onlooker is treated to a bizarre theatrical display of the Earth's forces. The sulfur that's released makes the air smell of rotten eggs. The population of Iceland grew very quickly. Soon regional meeting places known as Tings were established around the island. In the early 10th century, there were calls for a common Thing, an Althing. the leaders of the farmers sent a delegate to Norway to familiarize himself with the laws and customs there, and to bring back ideas for fruitful coexistence. The site chosen for this central assembly was modern-day Thingvellir. With grassland, firewood and water in abundance, the plain at the foot of the Almanagja Gorge was well suited as the location of the Althing. The site belonged to a farmer who had killed his slave. As a punishment, his land was confiscated and placed under the control of the Ting. In 930, the first joint parliament, the Althing, convened in the open air to mark the founding of the Icelandic state. Led by the law speaker, the assembly met on the law rock. The speaker recited the laws, which had not yet been written down, and chaired the assembly. Elected for 3 years, he was the sole paid servant of the young state. The law speaker was the most important person at the parliamentary assembly, but he had no power outside it. The right to vote was held by 48 Goggo, or chieftains. No one was barred from attending the assembly, and all free farmers had the right to speak. From 930 to 1268, this form of parliament was Iceland's most important institution. But then Iceland lost its independence, first to Norway and later to Denmark. It was not until 1944, during the Second World War, that Iceland was able to declare its independence again. The celebrations took place in Thingvellir. The Althing was attended by up to 4,000 people. For many, being present at the assembly meant a long trip, a 17-day journey for those travelling to Thingvellir from the eastern parts of the island. Besides Goggo and farmers, the Althing was attended by peat cutters, tanners and other craftsmen, as well as beer brewers, publicans, beggars, and those in search of work. The assembly lasted 14 days. Stalls were set up. There was entertainment in the form of games and wrestling matches. Tales were told and the latest news exchanged. Weddings took place. People spent the night in the open air, in tents or in simple huts. During the Thingvellir was the island's focal point, socially and politically. In the year 1000, the Althing discussed whether to adopt Christianity. According to an Icelandic saga, the following day Christians and heathens went to the law rock and declared that they did not feel bound by each other's beliefs. It was so loud on the law rock that you couldn't understand a single word. A missionary of German descent had complained to the King of Norway that he'd been badly treated in Iceland. The monarch then threatened to invade unless its inhabitants soon converted to Christianity. The conflict was resolved with a compromise. Instructed to find a solution, the law speaker spent a day and a night under a pelt. Then he announced his decision. Iceland would accept Christianity, but the pagan tribes would still be allowed to make sacrifices to their Nordic gods, the Aesir, but not in public. Through this bloodless Christianization, the Latin alphabet came to Iceland. From then on, the laws were written down. Script also aided the spread of the Icelandic language and Icelandic literature. In the Thingvellir National Park, Iceland's history and its geology interface. This is where the Eurasian and the North American tectonic plates meet. The border, so to speak, between the two continents is a rift valley basin, 5 to 6 kilometers wide, with numerous fissures which run more or less parallel to each other. These are the fault lines between the continents. America and Europe are still drifting apart at a rate of about 2 centimeters a year. They are being separated with tremendous force by magma in the Earth's core thrusting upwards. Thingvellir lies right in the middle of this rift system. In Iceland, you can watch the Earth's primeval forces at work. The land is an aesthetic, death-defying celebration of nature. That, perhaps, is why many Icelanders still believe in the existence of elves. At the Ministry of Transportation, there is even a man responsible for determining if the course of a new road or bridge will invade the privacy of the hidden people, as they're known. There can be no doubt that Iceland's landscape does not need people. From a human point of view, Iceland's history is a series of natural disasters. A volcanic eruption in 1783 claimed nearly 10,000 lives, a fifth of the island's population at the time. In 1996, following an eruption on the Vatnajökull, large parts of southern Iceland were inundated with hundreds of cubic meters of ice, mud and water. Anyone who wants to know how our planet was formed has to visit Iceland. People here know that their continued existence is down to geological grace, because nature shows them their limits and her true power every single day. Iceland is both paradise and hell.